fundraise the way they normally would?
Well,
I'm now joined by Adam McDonald from St. Agatha Research and Consulting. Adam, thank you for joining me today.
thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
So you help nonprofits and charities with funding, with policy planning. What are some of the things you're seeing right now with the COVID pandemic and people not being able to actively fundraise the way they normally would?
Well, we're seeing in many ways a replication of what happened in the early days of the pandemic for individuals in business. There's an element of panic, of course, because nonprofits and charities are trying to keep the doors open. They're trying to continue to serve the vulnerable populations that they always have, and they're honestly they're trying to ensure that they can continue helping in ways they always have. So we're seeing a combination of advocacy campaigns to federal government to include nonprofits and charities in the wage benefit that has gone to businesses, and the advocacy program was successful. So nonprofits and charities will be able to access that, though not without some problems, including a 6-week wait time. So so that particular solution still needs some tweaking. We're seeing a lot of grassroots creation of ways to continue serving online. I saw, for example, in today's Expositor, a group of musicians is getting together this weekend in order to help do some fundraising and some entertainment. So you're seeing creative ways to deliver services. I think the biggest thing was that at first it was very much a shock, very much okay, we're all going to go home. We're going to go home for a couple of weeks, and then we'll figure it out after that. Very quickly, it became apparent, of course, that we're all going home for a little longer. That it's not just 2 weeks. So nonprofits and charities are trying to start and pivot from what they've been doing to what they will be doing. I spoke with a colleague yesterday who's hearing a lot of questions about moving from a grant-based nonprofit model to a social enterprise model, which would allow for some greater flexibility in terms of how some of these organizations are able to operate, how they're able to raise funds, though that would have an impact on whether they're able to continue issuing charitable receipts. Another idea that's gaining some steam is the notion of looking more towards private foundations for funding formulas rather than to government grants, which of course are, as anyone who's applied for a grant knows, are notoriously inflexible in how you can use the money, when it can be used, and perhaps most importantly, when it gets delivered. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the sector right now, and certainly a lot of people looking for creative ways to do things differently. Uh, these organizations were already operating mostly on shoestrings, frayed shoestrings at that, and now they're trying to find ways to keep serving, because as we know, people who are involved in nonprofit and charity work want to give. They do want to give, but unfortunately, you can't give for free in all cases, and so that's what we're seeing right now.
And so how do you guide charities and nonprofits through this? What sort of services do you offer them to support them in ensuring that they can continue to do the work that they're doing?
Well, we do a few things. Primarily, we work with charities and nonprofits to deal with grant writing, strategic communications, which is particularly important in telling a story. Often nonprofits and charities, that they're made up of people who want to do good in their communities and have done good in their communities, but don't necessarily have the skills and expertise to speak with government or to tell their story in a compelling way. That's where St. Agatha comes in. So we offer that as one of our primary services. But as this pandemic has kind of taken over, one of the things we're offering and offering at discounted or no cost is additional government relations support, how to write to your MPP, template letters to develop a grassroots campaign, things you can create for your members, for your supporters to send to government to ask for help, to coordinate your message to government. We've also been offering additional programs, including the things you do when you have time, and no one ever has time. So a lot of the time, organizations won't take time to review bylaws, procedures, all that boring background work that I happen to love. And so we're offering an opportunity for those organizations to undertake a review, to take a look carefully at ways they might improve how they operate, when they operate, and whether the programs they're currently offering are even working in the first place. So there's a wide range of things nonprofits and charities can be doing in the downtime that either don't cost money or we figure it out later.
And strategic planning, a little bit of what you're talking about there. A lot of agencies and nonprofits have committed volunteers that are workhorses in events and other things that they're doing. How important is it, even outside of a pandemic, to do that sort of long-term planning and forecasting, so to speak, of services, of funding on a regular basis anyway?
Well, it's critical. A good idea that starts a nonprofit, that starts a community group, is often a very good idea, and it usually fits to meet a need. But without figuring out where you want to go from here, or more importantly, where you want to be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you end up, well, volunteers end up burnt out, or they end up being relied upon as the source of all information. Oh, don't worry, Joe knows that. Don't worry, Sam knows what that is. And you end up with this information burden being carried by one person who, if they are ill, if they decide they don't want to volunteer anymore, aren't transferring the knowledge. So the strategic planning component is critical to ensure that everyone in the organization has an idea of where we are now and where we want to be at certain milestones. There's that famous quote, I think it's been attributed to almost every general, that no plan survives an attack from the enemy, which is true. But for sure, you won't survive without a plan at all. And that's why it's critical to have an idea of where you want to be, and then tweak the plan as each milestone approaches.
Okay, Adam, how can people get into contact with you if they need help?
Well, we've got a bunch of ways. First and foremost is our website, www.staintagatha.ca. We are on every major social media channel. Usually it's St. Agatha RC, by telephone or by email, adam@staintagatha.ca. Lots of different options.
Perfect. Well, thank you for giving some really great tips and advice here, and good luck to you, and stay safe and healthy.
Thanks very much, Patty.